Hi there, guys, and welcome to the very first of the Cover Zero podcast with me, your host, Simon Conboy. I'm going to introduce a couple of guys to you now, and they'll be my co-hosts for today. So we've got first up, Chappers.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Or do you want to be known as Lee for the podcast's sake?
Lee's probably easier.
All right, we'll go with Lee. So we've got Lee. He's a Dolphins fan. And we've got Arnie.
Hi, guys.
He's our resident Titans fan. So just going to start introducing the guys to you. So, you've probably seen me talk before if you're watching this. So we'll start with you, Chappers, or Lee. I'll get used to it eventually. So, Lee, why do you follow the Dolphins? Who are some of your favourite players, and what's been your favourite moment as a fan so far?
Well, the reason I follow the Dolphins is purely because of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. That's the reason, man. It's hard to pick when I first started following the sport. It's hard to pick a team. So I thought I'd go for the first franchise I ever heard of. But favourite players, I mean, there's rich history. I like Larry Zonka, Dan Marino. I'm sorry.
You just had Jason Taylor going to the Hall of Fame.
Of course, Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas as well.
Yeah.
Size linebacker. And I haven't been watching the sport too long, but I've got to say my favourite moment as a Finns fan, watching them, has got to be the end of the Joe Philbin. That's been my most enjoyable.
What, Joe Philbin being fired?
Yeah, that is easily that and making the playoffs last year for the first time in God knows how long. But now finally get rid of boring Joe. That was easy one.
Fair enough. So who's your favourite current player? Cam Wake?
It'd be easy to say Cam Wake, but I'm going to go with Rashad Jones.
That's fair.
You could argue he is the heart and soul of our defense.
You certainly could, between him and Cam.
Yeah.
And Arnie, same questions to you.
I started following the Titans because I like I saw that they were a really defensive team back in the day, and that's the style of football I love watching. Not so much these days, but what can you do? Favourite players on the current roster: Delaney Walker and Taylor Lewan. I do love me some Taylor Lewan. Good hard-nosed player. Favourite players from the older sort of seasons, not current now, will be CJ back in his prime. Well, his 1-2 seasons.
It was maybe 3 seasons, we'll be fair.
Possibly 3. But going on to the same sort of moment from sort of when I was watching as well, watching the 2K year was something to behold. It was good fun to watch that year. Also, I'd have to say when Ken Wisenhunt got fired as well.
Yeah. We followed some bad teams when our treasured memories are coaches
getting fired.
Coaches being fired, exactly, yeah.
I know the feeling. Greg Schiano, do you know how good it felt when Greg Schiano and Raheem Morris before that got fired? I mean, damn, we've had some bad coaching hires. I mean, I'll go into stuff for me. Everyone who's been watching the show know I'm a Buccaneers fan because, I was a kid. I like Pirates and I like the colour red. It was between them and the Vikings, and I don't really like purple. And let's face it, Tampa is a better holiday destination than Minnesota, unless you're really into hunting. Favourite players for the Bucs: Derek Brooks, easily my all-time favourite, like most Bucs fans. Current players: Levante and Gerald, because I'm a Bucs fan. Defense is where it's at. Favorite moment was winning the Super Bowl, of course. Recent moment, probably like you guys, firings, to be honest. I mean, it's been a lean 10 years. It's been pretty bad. Although I just want to mention this one thing. It's a little bit off topic. But did any of you see what Greg Schiano said about the Ohio State D-line being better than the one he had with the Bucs?
No.
Like, who is he to talk about D linemen? He's the guy that got rid of Michael Bennett.
It's true.
He's not allowed to talk about D linemen. So we'll move on. So, of course, we're basically right at the beginning of the 2017 season. So I just want to go through our own team's prospects. They're the teams we all know best. I haven't actually done my preview for your 2 teams yet. So we'll get your guys' opinions because I'm sure, you pay a bit more attention than me, a lot more attention than me to those teams. So we'll start with you, Chappers. What do you think of the Dolphins' upcoming prospects? And of course, the big story with Tannehill injuring his knee and Jay Cutler being your new quarterback.
It was always, to be honest, like even before Tannehill's injury, this season was always gonna be tough based on our schedule, like to do what we did last year. Now without him, I've got to say you just got to hope. You just got to hope we just don't totally collapse. You just hope there's some sort of I wouldn't say progression, just try and stay where we are, if you know what I mean.
Compete for a wild card spot. That would be successful.
I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now. I mean, we open up at home to the Buccaneers. After that, we got the Chargers and the Jets. Then we have the Saints, Titans, at the Falcons. We've also got to play at Baltimore. We've got to play the Raiders, the Panthers, the Patriots twice. We've got to play Denver Broncos, and we got the Chiefs. It's a tough
and playing the AFC West is tough. That is a division full of decent teams, and they can all rush the passer.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But this past 7 days has been tough. I mean, we had the Jay Ajayi concussion, Tannehill's knee injury. We lost one of our starting left guard, Ted Larson. You know, he tore his biceps, I think. We're still dealing with what we're going to do at centre. Pouncey's not practicing fully at the minute because he's got bad hips.
And Pouncey is integral. You guys look significantly worse when he's not on the field.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, like we did a mix of Anthony Steen and Craig Urbick at centre last season, and you could see the difference. Like from what Ajayi was doing in the run game to what he was doing without Pouncey, it's day and night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said over the last couple of weeks, to me, the centre position is probably the most important non-left tackle spot on the O-line. You know, those guys have so many responsibilities, calling out Mike backers, setting up the protections, making sure the communication up and down the line is perfect, and then of course snapping the ball, which is obviously a fundamental part of the game. But you got to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's chemistry-wise, it's not so bad because you've now got a new quarterback and a new centre having to start all over again. I mean, we were going to have that anyway with whatever centre ended up starting in Pouncey's possible absence.
How much of a upgrade or downgrade do you think Cutler is from Tannehill?
Honestly, the slide isn't as bad as people make out. I'm going to compare just a couple of stats, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator for Jay Cutler during the 2015 season.
That was with the Bears, wasn't it?
Sorry?
With the Bears.
With the Bears, that's right. I'm just going to compare just a few here, right? So, completion rate. Tannehill last year, 67.1%. Jay Cutler's in 2015, 64.4%. Quite a humongous drop-off. Touchdowns last year with Tannehill. Through 19 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Jay Cutler, 21 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Not too bad. Then there's the quarterback passer rating. Tannehill scored 93.5 last year. Jay Cutler's the year before 92.3. So yeah, it's not drastic.
Those are near identical lines, and you could easily argue the Dolphins have better weapons than Cutler did.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, who was Cutler throwing to? He had Alshon
Jeffrey. Was Marshall there that year? Or I think Marshall was traded that year.
He was. He had Eddie Royal as his number 2.
Oh, that's not.
He had the up and down Zach Miller.
Yeah.
Matt Forte didn't have a great rushing year that year.
No, but he always contributes in that receiving
game. He always
game.
contributes, but I mean, he didn't have a fantastic year. I mean, I'd even argue our offensive line is possibly better as well. We've got our 2 bookend tackles.
They've had issues on the line for a while.
Yeah. But again, also we had to do something. I mean,
there wasn't a better option. I'm not gonna.
Not really, but also it kind of does say something about Matt Moore as well. I mean, Gase he's been through now 2 off seasons and a full season with Matt Moore. If he feels that he can't ride with him throughout a season, you've just got to trust that he knows what he's talking about and what he sees.
No, of course.
And he pitched heavy to Cutler to bring him in, so he knows what he's getting.
No, that's fair. Arnie, what's your opinion on this Jay Cutler situation?
As Lee said, they needed to get someone. The stats, obviously, under Gase are very similar. If anything, Cutler had a really good season under Gase. We all know the guy's got an arm on him. The O-line's better with the Dolphins. So the one thing that was always the problem with Jay Cutler was keeping him upright. If the Dolphins can keep him upright and he can get the ball down to Landry and rely on that run game with Ajayi, I think they'll be fine with him.
I agree. I actually think that Cutler might be a bit of an upgrade on Tannehill. Tannehill's been so inconsistent. Whilst Cutler is, he's not going to necessarily wow you with his consistency. He's not exactly known for that either. I think I feel more confident in what I'm going to see from Jay Cutler heading into the season than I would with Tannehill.
Yeah. As long as he can cut down the turnovers, I think
we welcome in Town
that's always that's always the problem with Jay. But I think cut down those turnovers, play smart, rely on Ajayi, they'll be fine.
Well, there's one guy that I do worry for on the Dolphins offense that's Devontae Parker, how it's going to affect his long-term being out with us. Because he's had to spend a couple of seasons trying to build a chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. This off-season, there's been rave thoughts about him. Now he's got to get used to it completely different. It could affect his ability.
Absolutely.
That's another thing. It could slow him down. It could slow him down.
Yeah, and the Dolphins are relying on him to be a true number one because they don't have that guy. Landry's a great player, but he's not a game breaker in that sense. And Kenny Stills is what he is. He's going to catch you some deep routes, and that's about it. Yeah,
so that's one guy that probably will benefit. Jay Cutler he's got that monstrous arm, so he can get the ball down the field.
Yeah, he's got as much experience with the scheme as Tannehill as well.
Yeah, there's also that. It'd be interesting. It's going to be a lot of it's going to be on our defense now to try and keep it in games.
Yeah, absolutely. And the defense looks fine. I worry about the secondary, but Charles Harris, he'll be a good complement. I don't see him as an every down player this year, but
I think he needs to put on a bit more weight.
Yeah,
it's one of those
you've got William Hayes for that job.
It's one of those awkward ones. Like you can see the ability as a speed rush, but when it comes to like trying to stand up and stop the run, he really does need to put a bit more onto that frame without losing that speed and that first step that he's got.
Yeah. The secondary is the big question mark for me. Rashad Jones needs to come back healthy, and the corner position just needs to hold up.
Yeah, absolutely. Byron Maxwell had he had a pretty good second half of last year, but as you saw, there were injuries. He went down towards the end of last year. Stopped going.
Yeah, it was a bit of a revolving door. So what are some of the same questions are you, Arnie? What are your thoughts on the Titans' upcoming season? A lot of hype around your lot this year.
There's a lot of hype, a lot of optimism from Tennessee fans. And I think there's oh, God knows, yeah. I think there's a lot of reason behind it. I mean, I love some of the stuff we've done in this off season in the draft. One of the main things is we built a bit more depth on the offensive line, and obviously our offensive line seems to be gelling more than ever.
Like one of the top units in the league, and there's a lot of youth there, so they should get better.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing on the offensive line which I would worry slightly about would be with Quinton Spain, and if he can have the same sort of season as he had last year. But apart from that, I've got no real worries there. The upcoming receiver corps that we've got now is the first time that I've seen as a Titans fan that we actually hopefully have a receiving corps which put up some decent numbers this year and take a bit of the pressure off the running game.
The Eric Decker signing for me was the one that made me feel quite confident this group's going to be significantly better.
Yeah, I mean, if Corey Davis can stay healthy, I mean, he's dealing with a hamstring injury at the moment, but it's a week-to-week basis injury. He should be fine for the season. I mean, I think at the moment we're looking at Corey Davis and Rashad Matthews as our number 1 and 2, and I think
I've
No,
heard
I think-
Declan looked very good in camp so far.
He has looked very good. I mean, there was one camp he hadn't dropped a single ball. But I think we're looking at him as more of the slot guy at the moment. Just to bring in a bit more sort of his veteran leadership towards the other guys. But again, with Tajay, I mean, he's injured at the moment. But if he can be the receiver we hope he is, we should have a lot of depth at that position as well. And I'm really liking our receiver corps at the moment. The question I always will be our secondary. There's a lot of question marks on our secondary at the moment, whether it's going to work as a group. I mean, picking up Adoree Jackson, I wasn't a big fan of the signing.
I wasn't excited about that draft pick either.
But he does fit the scheme. I mean, and looking from our depth chart that we've just released up today for our preseason game, I mean, our number one corner starting is LaShawn Sims. So I'm a bit...
I'm not familiar with who that is. I can't be honest, I got no idea.
He was if I'm correct, he was our 4th or 5th guy last year. So he would have been more of a nickel guy than anything. But I really liked the signing of Logan Ryan, and I think he will probably prove to be our number one guy.
He does his best work in the slot with the Patriots, or did his best work in the slot with the Pats.
The problem we've got is we seem to have a lot of guys that work more nickel than slot. We haven't really got a number one corner.
No, but you'll play a lot of zone, I think,
and a lot of zone blitz as well, which will help. The signing of Jonathan Cyprian, love that signing. He's a great run support guy, and I think that's what we will need going forward. We're looking at more getting pressure on the quarterback rather than trying to stop the ball down the field. We're going to stop him at the line instead of down the field. I've seen that we're giving Kevin Byard the chance to actually step up and go into that free safety role as a starter, which I like. I liked what I saw from him last year. Granted, there wasn't too much I saw from him. He didn't start too many games. Linebacker, I'm okay with the linebacker position. I still think we could have done a bit more of an upgrade of Woodyard. I like what I saw from Williamson last year. If he can upgrade again, perfect. Obviously, the big news coming out of Tennessee was signing Jarrell Casey to an extended 4-year deal, $60 million.
Yeah, you're happy with that?
More than happy with that. That means we've got him for another 6 years now because he's already on a 2-year deal.
Yeah,
so
he's been a good player from day one for this team.
Yeah, and going forward, I mean, the guy's a force on the line. It's just the other few guys on the line where I have question marks.
You've got 3 good natural pass rushers. That's the strength of that defense.
I mean, we've got Derek Morgan, Brian Arapko, and Casey as our pass rushers. Carl Klug will play more of a sort of a third down spot. We just signed Eric Walden as well, the outside linebacker, who he can get you quite a few sacks per game, per year, sorry.
Depth is depth.
Depth, Granted, I'm not a fan of the guy after headbutting Delaney Walker, but, if he's on our side, that's fine.
Just to sort of get to the juice of the Titans, like playoffs or bust for you this year?
We've got to be looking at playoffs. I mean, I've got us at 10-6, which I think should win us the division.
It's a pretty soft division when you it's there for the taking.
That's the problem with the Titans. It comes down to beating the Colts and winning in this division, which we have struggled to do.
What improvements are you looking to see from Mariota? We'll sort of just finish up on that before we move on.
To stay healthy would be the main key from that. I think his deep ball still needs some work. He showed last year that he can throw the deep ball, but there was times he was either overthrew, which was a rare surprise, or the most common one, he was underthrowing a lot of deep passes. But I'd like to see that sort of change. Take a few more risks as well. He plays it very safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go to a bit of injury news. We'll try and keep this a little bit current. So I'm just going to throw some names out there. We'll quickly sort of do a bit of a speed round on them. Quincy Enunwa, the Jets, they just can't catch a break. their one legitimate-looking wide receiver, and he's done for the year with a neck injury.
Well, yeah, you're saying about can't catch a break. Now they're not going to be able to catch a pass. Who have they got anyone who's going to be catching the balls from now?
I've got no idea. It was a thin group as it was.
There's been a lot of embarrassing things that I've heard come out of their camp this year, like with their quarterback not knowing how to break a huddle. Hackenberg, I think that was.
That was Hackenberg, yeah.
Yeah.
We've also got another big injury. Taylor Decker, I think this is a big one for the Lions. They made a real effort to improve that line with the TJ Lang and Ricky Wagner signings. It looked like one of the top lines in the league. And then their stud second-year tackle, he's now going to miss a large chunk of the season.
Yeah, it's hard. I also worry, but it's got to suck for Stafford as well. I mean, he came on leaps and bounds last year.
Yeah, last year, by far his best season as a pro, by far.
Yeah. I mean, this one's got to hurt him more than anyone.
Yeah. I mean, their options at left tackle are terrible as well. Cyrus Kwanjo, and who's the other guy he's competing with? Oh, the fella from the Rams, Greg Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, they're not.
Apparently, they've both been turnstiles in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, those are two guards that I think they're both guys that I think play better at guard.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not very good at guard.
No, that's the thing. So he's gonna be running for his life.
Yeah, Arnie, how do you feel? This would be like you losing, your beloved Jack Conklin.
Yeah.
Well, Conklin, they both had similarly good seasons last year, drafted in this sort of spot.
Yeah, and as sort of Lee said, Stafford had a good year last year, and that O-line helped him a lot last year, and it's a big blow to them. A hell of a big blow,
Huge. Now we'll move on to a bit. I'm not even going to name all the players. The Ravens, just as a whole. Again, what is it with this team? 3 years in a row now. I mean, we've got Flacco, who apparently can't even bend over, let alone throw a pass. They lost a couple of linemen. They had a linebacker retire. They've had Dennis Pitter retire. They then lost their second tight end in Crockett Gilmore for the year.
You've got to look at the trainers, though. Surely in situations.
And they lost their running back. They lost who was going to be their start running back in Dixon, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you're losing players at such a rate to injury, surely you have to look at the trainers and think, what the hell are you doing?
Maybe.
But they have to rely on their defense this year, because I can't see them relying on that offense.
Well, I mean, I did my season preview for the Ravens, and I love their secondary. I think it's one of the top-looking secondaries in the NFL. But I look in that front seven, who's getting after the passer?
I'll say T. Suggs is getting up there in age.
Yeah.
Can't rely on him to do it forever.
Yeah, Dumerville's gone.
They haven't even got Jernigan anymore either.
Jernigan's gone, yeah, and he gave them some rush. It looks rough, and this offense, I just look at the offense, it's an all-new offensive line. A couple of those guys have gone down. They've got Marshall Yonder and a bunch of... Because they lost Jeremy Zutar, who'd been a good centre for them. It looks rough, and I look at the skill positions. I really think this team's going to struggle. I thought they'd struggle even without these injuries, and this is just piling on.
It's kind of lucky they signed Jeremy Macklin this offseason, so they've got someone to try and make some sort of plays on offense for them.
Yeah, and they can't even sign anyone at quarterback now. They're right up against it with a cap.
Is there a chance they can go after Colin Kaepernick?
No, not at the minute. They'd have to do something with their cap.
Not even league minimum?
No, they've got basically no money.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's Joe Flacco's contract. The man who can't bend over except to maybe pick up checks. Another one of the teams that's having problems with injury the last couple of years, and this was my dark horse pick for the playoffs. I had them going 10-6 in my season preview. I'm going to have to change that now, and that's the Chargers. Because Mike Williams hasn't practiced at all yet, and he's going to probably miss a chunk of the season. And Forrest Lamp, who I loved heading into the draft, and Chappers, I know you were a fan of his as well.
Oh, yeah, I love Lamp.
He tore his ACL. So, yeah.
Chargers got it rough. I mean, I really like Mike Williams coming out of college. I mean, he was actually the receiver that I wanted the Titans to pick up in the first round. I mean, looking back now, I'm glad we didn't, but it just sucks for these talents to go down like this. I mean, the Chargers looked really hopeful.
Especially on the O-line, where this team has been having problems for years. Phillip Rivers has been getting killed out there.
Yeah.
It's such a rough division they're in for pass rush too. Like you got the Broncos with Shane Ray and Von Miller, Chiefs with Tamba Harley and
Dee Ford and Justin Houston. And then you've got the Raiders with Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin.
Yeah, I mean, that is a rough division to lose linemen like that.
Yeah, you got to be able to play tackle in that division. It's pretty brutal. But maybe it's just karma for moving.
It doesn't help Melvin Gordon either. He had a really good year last
year. Yeah, that's not going to help him.
He's not. How's he going to be able to build on that now? He's got no one pushing him.
Well, he didn't have anyone blocking for him last year, to be honest. It's going to be tough. And I really like to look at this team, but I did say in my season preview I thought they were incredibly thin and couldn't afford injuries. And then the next day, the news broke. So my bad there, Chargers fans. And the other one is the Saints. Now, this is a story that's flown very much under the radar, but I think this team is in a lot of trouble because of the injuries. They've lost their left tackle, Teron Armstead, who's one of the better pass protecting tackles in the league. He might not be ready till about a month into the season, but of course, no practice time. Same with Max Unger, the centre. He's one of the better centres in the league.
He was one of their better line.
Yeah, obviously the O-line's important to this, guys. Like, they drafted Ranchik because they wanted to replace Zach Streif because he's liability pass blocking. But now they've got to play Streif and they're going to have to throw Ranchik straight into the lineup. I don't know who's playing centre. I mean, I did the preview yesterday. I can't even remember. And they lost Nick Fairley for the season, so they're already very thin defence, particularly on the line, has lost a massive player, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah, they're another team that just can't catch a break at the minute, especially this off-season. They want to get him one more ring. They've tried to do some injury bugs.
And they just can't catch a break. And defensively, they still look like they're going to be a disaster zone. Arnie, what's your view on the Saints? Do you think they're going to struggle?
I think with these O-line losses, I mean, the most important guy for this team is Drew Brees and how we can get the ball down the field. And if that O-line can't keep him upright, with how thin that defense is, they're going to struggle. Big time struggle.
The offense as well with all those running backs. Like that looks like a really good group. You guys know I'm a big fan of Alvin Kamara.
Oh, probably know that, yeah.
Yeah, and then Ingram's a league average back. He's okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you got with Peterson, but clearly they've made an effort to improve that side of things, and all these guys just got to get hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Peterson can't catch a break either.
No, still can't. But so that's our rundown of the big injuries. We'll go on one quick thing for each team. So we've got a most and a least improved team from each of us. So we'll start with you, Arnie. We'll mix it up a little bit. Who's your most improved and least improved team of this off-season?
My most improved team this off-season is the Browns. I mean, they can't get any worse.
They couldn't have. Well, I don't know. You look at the Jets.
It's true. But I just think with the Browns this year, what they've done with the O-line,
they've done with that O-line. That looks like a top unit.
Yeah, they're building in the right way. And the O-line, I think, is the best way to start. I mean, just coming from a Titans fan, you look at how the Titans first built. We built on that O-line.
You look at the Cowboys as well. They've done the same thing.
And it's worked. I mean, it's worked for the Cowboys. It's working at the moment for the Titans. Hopefully it carries on. But for the Browns, you've got to hope that if they've got a good quarterback behind them, which, currently they don't. But if you put a good quarterback behind there, you've got to expect at least 6 wins from them. Okay, I don't expect that from them this year, but going forward, I mean, they're going in the right direction. Even then, I'd still think
that's big progress. How about you, chaps? Do you agree with the Browns being a team that's massively improved?
I think Arnie was quite right. It was hard for him to get any worse. But I like what they did with their first 3 picks, and as you said, with the guard signings as well. I thought I did a great job with them.
it feels like it's a long-term thing, especially with the offensive line. They can bring someone in next year or develop Kaiser potentially. They'll have a foundation there in place, because the last thing you want with your rookie, we've seen it countless times, is having them just get killed behind a bad O-line. I do like what they did in the first round, as you suggested, with the 3 first-round picks in the end.
Yeah, it was 3.
So, and Joku, who's a project, but this team isn't in a rush, and one of the great mysteries of the NFL drafting Jabril Peppers, who I'm a big fan of. I know Arnie is.
I love Jabril Peppers.
He's one of I just don't know where you play him. I really don't.
Like, naturally, I look at him and I think he's a safety, but he's not got the natural ball skills for it. Like, it just wasn't what he was asked to do. I think maybe you can look at what Dion Buchanan does in Arizona, but then they're playing a 4-3, so I don't know how feasible that is. I don't know, but you find something to do. Like, he's one of those guys, he can just play football. Just find something for him to do.
Yeah.
What team do you think's done the least to improve this season?
I'd have to go with the 49ers. Just, they've made a couple of signings which have been pretty good, but there's still quarterback issues there. There's still O-line issues, I think.
The offense looked like a mess to me.
Yeah, defensively, there's not much going on there, and they haven't really improved much either this offseason. I'm thinking the same sort of record, if not one more win.
So 2 or 3 wins for the Niners this year.
Yeah, there's too many problems with this team.
Fair enough. Would you agree with that, Lee?
I would. I've got another team that I think's going to be worse. It's obvious who I'm going to pick.
We'll get to them, and I'm sure you'll take much joy in revealing who they are. But for me, the Niners, I think it's about the schemes as much as anything. Defensively, you've got to bear in mind how many first-rounders they've got on that defense. I've mentioned this many times. You've got 3 top 10 picks on that D-line now with Solomon Thomas there in Buck, Armstead and him. Then you've got Reuben Foster's been added there now. You've got Jimmy Ward. He was a first-rounder. Eric Reed. That defense has to be good. You've invested that many players. It's got to be dominant. I'm not sure that's going to happen this year. But they look better. They look like they could be a good group defensively. But the offense just... If Shanahan can make them into a productive unit, then clearly he is an offensive genius, and I'll never argue against that ever again.
It's the offense which my concerns come from more than anything.
I like Carlos Hyde. Garcon's okay as like a possession guy, and that's it. It's pretty bleak. Yeah. Steppers, who is your most improved team of this off-season?
You know what? It was really, really tough trying to pick, but I've gone with Philadelphia Eagles because based on veterans they've brought in, they've got Torrey Smith, Alshon Jeffrey, and LeGarrette Blount, all offensive guys, all can help Carson Wentz out when he's second.
Positions or weakness last year as well.
Yeah. On the O-line, they brought in Chance Warmack. He can compete for one of those guard spots.
He was good on the line last year as well.
No, but even so, it's still an okay backup. Yeah. I liked on defense. They got Chris Long, veteran presence on the edge. They got Timmy Jernigan in a trade.
I'm a big fan of that trade. I like Jernigan.
Yeah, and then when you just go to the draft, they did quite well. Derek Barnett was one of my favourite players in the draft. He was a guy I thought.
Yeah, I think him and Brandon Graham would be a great pair.
They got Sidney Jones, a guy who I think should have been the first corner selected if he was fit. So, he won't contribute next year, but the year afterwards for the future, he could be a player for them.
No, absolutely. My one issue when I look at this team is just the cornerback position, but I agree with you. I think they did as much as any team could to improve themselves. And in particular, when you've got, a quarterback you drafted so highly to help him out. Because we saw last year, those receivers just were not good enough. And whilst Torrey Smith struggled in San Fran, I still think he can play certainly as a number 2. I can't argue with the Eagles. I think they had a great off-season. And who do you think did the worst job improving their roster this year?
I really didn't want to pick them, just because it's so obvious where it's going.
It is obvious. I'll grant you that.
It's the New York Jets. How can you not say they've had the worst season?
Well,
I mean,
they got definitively worse.
Yeah, they used their first, they bought no one in free agency, no one of note. They tried trading away some of their best defensive players. They've got absolutely no one at quarterback, no one to catch them. Their 2 draft picks were safe.
Yeah, and good safeties. I like both players.
I mean, I like the first guy they got.
Jamal Adams.
Jamal Adams. I thought I really like him. He's a good player. But then they went second round, safety again.
Yeah, Marcus May.
Like that, to me, it just screams of a team that's just trying to tank. They're just hoping Sam Darnold comes out next year and that he's their guy. That's what it screams out to me.
Absolutely. This looks like a team that's got actively worse. How about you? I know you have a bit of a soft spot for the Jets. How do you feel about all this?
I did, but it's embarrassing to even say that anymore.
It was pretty embarrassing back then. They had Mark Sanchez as their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the butt fumble will always be one of my favourite moments.
It's one of
ever.
everyone.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, when your quarterback doesn't know how to break a huddle, I mean, it goes downhill from there, really. You haven't got much to rely on.
If we've learned anything in the last few years in the NFL, if you want a high draft pick, you want Josh McCown as your starting quarterback.
Yeah.
He will make it happen. So, there's a lot of guys that are projected to be high picks, although there always is at this time of year in terms of the quarterbacks. Darnold does appear to be the cream of the crop, but no doubt the Jets will be looking at all of them come the 2018 draft. Myself, I was initially with the most improved teams going to go with the Chargers. I was very high on what they've done. Revamped the offensive line. I thought it was going to be a good group. Not so sure anymore with Lamp going down. Mike Williams would have really helped that core. You got Keenan Allen coming back. I was going to be a big fan of that offense. I love them defensively. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, great pair. I like their corners in Verrett. But Verrett and Casey Hayward, he was great last year. But I can't do it anymore. The injuries, I just can't. So I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers. I didn't want to. I wanted you to go with the Buccaneers so I could pick someone else. But we, as a team, have got a lot better. Gerald McCoy has never had a really good player alongside him at defensive tackle. Now got Chris Baker. The defensive end group has some depth now that Noah Spence should be coming along. They've re-signed Golston, who doesn't offer much rush, but he's good against the run. Robert Ayers is a fine player. Adding Deshaun Jackson adds speed. When was the last time you saw a Buccaneers offense with speed? Have you guys seen one?
No.
So, yeah, first time I've had a deep threat since Joey Galloway, and he left the team in like 2009 or something. OJ Howard wasn't really a need, but he adds a lot of depth. Apparently, Chris Godwin has looked great in camps. There's a ton of depth in the weapons. Did nothing to improve the O-line. That's my one concern. Ever since Mankins retired, the guard position's been an issue. They're moving Ali Marpet, who was the one good guard we had, to centre. They're relying on J.R. Sweezy. That concerns me. But I do think, and the total rebuild at safety, which has been necessary because Lord knows I don't want to see Chris Conti running around there as a starter ever again. So whether the safety thing works out, I'm not sure. But the weapons are much better. Chris Baker's a great signing. Brent Grimes, we'll see what he does. He was great last year. He needs to carry on. Otherwise, we look terrible at corner. But we got a lot better. And I think this year we might be able to make a playoff push. Last year, Jameis Winston was basically just trying to spam Mike Evans. That was all he had, because Cameron Brate is a decent player, but that was it. We had no run game. Now he's got weapons. It should be better. In terms of the team, I feel improved the least. I mean, I was looking at this list, and I'm going to look at it again, because there's just so many. So I'm going to go some honourable mentions, because I can. So we've got the Bengals. I feel like I like what they've done in the draft, but for this season, losing those linemen, I feel like they got worse. We've also got the Panthers. I don't feel like they've got worse, but they've stayed the same. They're still crappy on the O-line. McCaffrey might change my opinion. We'll see what he does when he hits the field. The Cardinals, though, they are my pick. This team's got worse. Simply losing Calais Campbell, he's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
We've all watched Cards over the last few years. What he does for this team, or did for this team, was offer a stout player against the run. You just didn't want to run to that side, and he'd generate rush. They've got nobody to replace him unless Nkemdiche steps up. The corner position, they desperately needed to find someone to play across from Peterson. They didn't do that. They lost Tony Jefferson in free agency, who was great last year. They lost Kevin Minter, who was an okay inside backer. I like Hassan Reddick, but it's a big ask for him to start year one. Carlos Dansby is an old man at this point. The offensive line's still a mess. The receiving group is very mediocre. I feel this team, if anything, got worse this off-season.
I think they had their 1 year to try and make that push, and I do have to agree there. I like what they've done in the draft, but...
Yeah, I like their draft. I just don't think it helps them now.
No. And I do agree with the receiving core as well.
Yeah, thoroughly uninspiring, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, you chappers, what do you think of the Crads?
I'd say my last impression of them was the fumble game we had against them.
Oh my goodness, that was one of the worst first halves of football I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's you could say that's just how their off season has gone too.
That's how last season went for them. There was so many games they could have won that they just found ways to lose or tie. In the case of the Seahawks game.
The thing is, I'm not entirely convinced like the Seahawks or the Rams, like guys in that division. I don't think they've done so much to improve. So I think they're still in for a chance for the wild card.
Yeah, maybe.
They are relying on a lot of vets though, a lot.
It does. It's so odd that not long ago, 2-3 years ago, this was the toughest division possibly in the NFL, certainly in the NFC. And now you can make a legitimate argument. It looks like the weakest division in the NFC.
That's saying a lot with the AFC South.
I'm talking AFC South. It's between the AFC South and NFC West. Actually, no, I really don't like the AFC North.
That has got a lot weaker.
It
a
has.
lot weaker.
I feel the Steelers are just going to run away with that division almost by default. And I think they're a good team, but I can't see any of those teams threatening them.
I can't see any team in that division apart from the Steelers going above 500.
Yeah, I agree. It's rough. So we'll finish up with something positive amidst a little bit of negativity. That was a very Luton way of saying it. Negative. Who needs teas? So we'll go with what are we all most looking forward to next season. Now I'm going to start this off because I don't want any of you guys stealing this one, which is why we didn't go over this before the show. The celebrations. They're back. Sort of.
It's about time. You don't want it being known as the no fun league. You want guys to have fun out there. I know how much Simon loves Von Miller's like little hip thrusts whenever he gets a sack.
No, right. I never mentioned those. The one that I found terrifying last year was the Antonio Brown, like whatever that was, the monster twerk. It's one of those images that's burned into my brain, unfortunately.
It's burned into a lot of people.
The one I miss is Jared Odrick's Pee Wee Herman celebration. I love that thing.
Yeah, but he was allowed to do that. It's the stuff like the one that bugged me last year, and you guys have probably heard this run. People who watched the episode when they announced this a while back probably heard this. There was one last year where Gerald McCoy got a sack on 3rd down, and him and Clinton McDonald went opposite each other, and they both just did that, and then they got flagged for having a choreographed celebration. It took all of 3 seconds. It was offensive to no one except people who have even less rhythm than Gerald McCoy does. And yeah, those are the kind of, or the Michael Crabtree one. That's the one from last year that still stands out to me the most. Do you remember that in week 1?
Yeah.
No, refresh me. What was?
So it was 35-34, I believe. The Raiders had just scored a touchdown, and they went for the 2-point conversion. Crabtree got it and celebrated a little bit too exuberantly. So he got flagged.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's how it went down. He didn't really do anything. I think he got dogpiled maybe. But yeah, scored a 2-point conversion with 50 seconds to go to pull ahead in a game and got flagged.
Oh, all that's over now. Go back to
Is.
seeing these ridiculous celebrations. It's great.
It is, and also an honourable mention to hopefully the Buccaneers being competent. Hopefully. Chappers, how about you? What are you looking forward to next year?
Week 1, I'm looking forward to seeing how crazy Miko Grimes gets with their tweets. Brent going up against his old team.
I'm looking forward to seeing her on Hard Knocks. I've got no doubt she's going to be featured.
Oh, it's actually a shame that it's a shame Ryan's out anyway, but if he was starting that game, she would be all over that straight away. James versus Tannehill like that.
Be there with a megaphone in the stands.
Oh no, there's so much to look forward to, man. Off season is so goddamn long. I'm just looking forward to seeing some football. Now I've got, on a personal note, I've got the Dolphin Saints game at Wembley.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I think that's going to be a hell of a game.
You could be the first one of us to witness our team actually win a game we're at live.
Could do, but it's one of those ones. I hope Jay manages to go off on another 200-yard plus game.
He certainly could. I mean, have you seen that Saints defense?
When Nick Fairley went out, that's actually the first thing I thought of when Fairley went down. I went, "Oh, easier to run on now."
Yep, for sure, for sure. And how about you, Arnie? What are you looking forward to this year?
Well, the first thing I am is the less adverts during the games.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot that.
That will make watching a lot more enjoyable. That's the one thing I was getting quite sick of was the adverts. I mean, when you're getting really into the game and then you've got advert after advert,
the worst thing in the world was the example Goodell used, where it was touchdown and then advert,
kickoff, advert,
adverts, kickoff. And it's well, that could have took 20 seconds and I'd lost 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah. And obviously what should be the hope of postseason football for the first time since I've been watching, which
that's true. And to think you guys went 13-3 the year before you started watching.
Maybe it's me.
That could be it. We're all just curses on our teams. Since you guys started watching, we have a mighty 1 playoff appearance between the 3 of us, our team.
And that was last year.
That's terrible.
It is pretty bad. No one can call us fair weather fans.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. You didn't bring up the Jarvis Landry thing.
Oh yes, yeah. I haven't mentioned this to you either. Right, this is something I want to actually make a regular thing. Our one absolute piece of crap story every week.
We have to do the Donald Trump fake news thing. It's fake news.
This is Donald Trump-esque fake news, where I saw this article, and I'm sure Chapp's had a similar reaction to me. It probably more so as a Dolphins fan. And it's Jarvis Landry indicted in incident or something. What's he done? You open it up, and it's some dude rang the police. Basically, some dude rang the police because Jarvis Landry and his missus were having a fight, from the sounds of things.
Yeah,
and his missus is nah, it was fine. He wouldn't harm me or anyone else. We just had an argument. I was why is this news?
Yeah, I mean, when you every day, every morning when I wake up, first thing I do, I look up Miami Dolphins news just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Came up, and like you said, Jarvis Landry investigated for domestic battery. That was it. Domestic battery.
That's it. That's how it was phrased.
And you just think, shit. And as soon as you look at it and you see what she's written, you're like, why did this even make the press?
I was annoyed at myself for reading it. I have been clickbaited.
I mean, I've had a miniature heart attack. I've already had a bad 7 days with this team already. And then I see that and I'm like, shit, no. Then you see it and I'm like, why the hell was this even for? It happened in March. March, that's the first thing. I mean, obviously they're going to follow it up. That's the law over there. They're supposed to do that. I'm sure it's the law too. But
no charges against him either. It was just mentioned to the NFL, and they're like, yeah, we're going to investigate, and they'll be like, what can they even do? I know their policy is pretty strict on this stuff, but what can you do? Nothing. It's non-story, and God, I'm annoyed I clicked on it. It's like Chapper said. So I wake up every day. I have a quick pray. I'm not a religious man, but I have a quick pray because it's that time of year, and the worst thing you can do is open up, the NFL page and see like player X is done for the season. And you're like, brilliant. That's ruined my day. And you see something like that, and it gives you that feeling of, how could this happen? And then you read it, and you're like, well, I mean, you're a little grateful, I guess, because it's a non-story, but it's just trolling. That's what it is.
It's more just timing. I mean, well, we've had, as I said, had a bad 7 days. Got three massively important players of injuries. Got a little bit of a quarterback controversy going on. Miniature.
Yeah.
Have like the best defensive weapon that you have right now. Heart and soul of that offense. Something like that.
Yeah.
Just turns out to be absolutely nothing. It's a slow news.
It is infuriating. And on that note, we'll wrap it up today. So, pleasure as always. Thank you two for turning up for this. We'll do this more regularly in future, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. Fun.
Cheers for having us.
Yeah, all right. And thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. It's been a pleasure as always. As always, check out some more of the show. Got the season previews. They're ongoing. Today's episode was the Arizona Cardinals. And one of these will be posted up again soon. I'm sure it will be. Well, we'll be talking about preseason. Super exciting preseason. Yay.
Season springers.
Hooray for fake football. And on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, really do want to emphasise how much we appreciate it. It's been a pleasure as always. Have a great evening and go Bucks.
No.